Hello and welcome to InGeneral, the Jurassic Outpost podcast, episode 132. My name's Jack. On this episode, I'm joined with Caleb. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
I'm not too bad, I'm joined with Samantha. How you doing?
Good. How you doing? Ready to talk about books?
Yes, let's do it. We also have Corey here with a better microphone this time.
Yeah, I'm feeling chilly, ready to talk about our book today.
Welcome to Jurassic Book Club.
Hell yeah. So to start things off, I have not read this book. We're going to talk about David Koepp's Cold Storage.
Jack today is our omniscient, but yet unknowing narrator on this.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's our job to convince him to read it by the end of this.
Yes.
Yeah. As if I need convincing, but yes, convince me. Let's do it. So, I mean, what better to start us off with a summary? Caleb, do you want to lead us in?
Yeah, I just want to read the summary that's on the inside of the book when you buy it. But so when Pentagon bioterror operative Roberto Diaz was sent to investigate a suspected biochemical attack, he found something far worse. A highly mutative organism capable of extinction-level destruction. Now, after decades of festering in a forgotten sub-basement, the specimen has found its way out and is on a lethal feeding frenzy. And only Diaz knows how to stop it. He races across the country to help two unwitting security guards, one an ex-con and the other a single mother. Over one harrowing night, the unlikely trio must figure out how to quarantine this horror again before it's too late. All they have is luck, fearlessness, and a mordant sense of humor. Will that be enough to save all of humanity? Find out in David Koepp's Cold Storage.
It sounds terrifying.
It is.
Yeah.
There's a lot in it that is
But
just
it's great.
horrifying. But, well, amazing.
I mean, it's David Koepp, right? Wrote the first two Jurassic Park, Lost World, has written a bunch of other stuff. But this is this his first novel? Is this his first actual novel, or has he written more?
I believe so.
I could be wrong. I want to say there was like one other thing before this, but I'm not sure.
Nope, it's his first one.
Yeah,
he wrote
okay.
Cold Storage in 2019, and then he came out with a novel called Aurora in 2022.
Yeah, and that also sounds really like a really good time, that one.
But so for his first actual release novel, he went in hard.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I
Absolutely.
mean, you can clearly see from the way that it's written that he pulls a lot of it from to me it's kind of written like a movie.
Absolutely.
The way that the pacing plays out, like it all happens in the course of a night. And David Koepp, I think, really likes to do that kind of bottlenecking and stuff. And so it feels like a movie in a book, which is really cool for reading.
Mm-hmm.
Does it feel similar to anything by? I mean, obviously, we're going to talk about why it's kind of similar to Jurassic Park. But have you guys read Prey? Michael Crichton's Prey?
Many times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Does it have similarities to that? Because it's kind of a similar thing, right? How some sort of organism, this is kind of more a tech organism, escapes and.
In some ways, yes, I would say yes. In other ways, I'd say no. Prey to me is more sci-fi thriller, where Cold Storage is more like sci-fi horror.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's kind of that's kind of like the distinguishing factor. But I mean, Koepp clearly takes a lot of cues from Crichton when he's writing books like this.
Absolutely.
With the science element of it, there's science explanations. I think if I remember right, the whole prologue of the book is kind of written like a Michael Crichton thing, where they talk about, oh, here's this scientific concept,
Absolutely,
and how it's kind of gotten bigger over the last decade or something like that, and then we're gonna use that and jump into the actual plot of the book.
Yeah, it does the Crichton thing where it sets the scene in a very grounded, factual way.
Mm-hmm.
And so then once you take off into the rest of the book, sci-fi horror is very accurate, because it all is just, there's a lot of fear. I feel, but yeah.
And the subgenre that I like to call spore, because of the fungus.
Yeah. I saw someone saying like, The Last of Us fans, you need to read Cold Storage by David Koepp.
Yeah,
Oh wow. Okay.
that's what I have been telling people about it when I talk about it. I'm like, well, if you've seen The Last of Us, it's kind of the same vibes with the cordyceps concept taking over beans.
Okay. So, do we want to go into the opening? Is it the first chapter?
First couple
First
chapters,
couple,
yeah.
yeah.
A couple.
chapters.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Corey and Sam and I have had this conversation at least a few times, and I wanted to discuss the opening also because it's David Koepp, and the other Jurassics have it too, but those first two Jurassics have like the cold open that's frightening. And so this feels that way. It feels like this setting event that's very chilling. Do one of you guys want to take us through the opening in a general way? We're going to discuss the major themes of the novel and everything. So like mild spoilers if you haven't read the novel or if you haven't finished it, but like,
it's the first couple chapters. That's not
Yeah.
a spoiler. That's what you're getting into anyway, right?
yeah.
Go for it, Corey.
All right. So the first couple chapters, basically we've had, it's in the remotes of Australia. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like in the outback of Australia. This satellite has come crashing down to Earth, and there's been a call about a potential pathogen. Nobody really has any really symptoms or anything. There's like one guy that's kind of acting weird, so they called the
And it's in like a extremely
village.
small town, right?
Yeah, like 20 people, something like that, like super small.
Yeah.
And so some government agency, 3-letter people, go out there to investigate and find the satellite, and soon discover that the town is empty. There's no one there. The roads are desolate. They can't find anyone until they find the satellite. And there is basically 3 characters that are with us at this point. Roberto Diaz. Oh my gosh, I'm going to forget the names again. Trini. What's Trini's last name?
I
can't remember Trini's last name.
I remember Trini though. Yeah.
Yeah, Trini. And then we have someone very funnily named Dr. Hero.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some, Roberto's married. There's some weird sexual tension about an affair kind of thing maybe happening on a plane as they're flying out to Australia between Roberto and Dr. Hero, but Trini, being a lovely partner, stops it from happening. It's a weird little interlude to me to start the book, but whatever. So they get out to the the village really in Australia, and they soon discover that there are just exploded people on like roofs of the houses, just like exploded from the inside out kind of thing. And they're like, what is this? And are about the same time that they discover this, and they have investigated the satellite, Dr. Hero has accidentally stepped in a little patch of green fungus, right? They're all wearing biosuits. It's nothing. And then to me, this is the really cool part of the book, is it shifts to like the fungus's perspective. And it's not like a conscious thought kind of thing. It's not like saying like, oh, I'm gonna go and infect somebody. It's just like what the fungus starts doing.
It's like talking about like needing to grow, like growth and expand.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And so it literally starts talking about ways that it starts what it needs to change into to start breaking down the hazmat suits to get inside the hazmat suit. So it's like goes through different chemical compounds and finally finds one that starts melting the rubber away and makes its way inside the suit. And then it gets in the oxygen of the suit and it starts growing even more. And it makes its way inside of a little cut in Dr. Hero's heel. And then it switches kind of back to Dr. Hero, and she goes, does anyone smell burned toast? And it's like immediately she's smelling like the thing burning through her suit, and she doesn't even realize it. It literally knocks out infects her blood, gets into her brain, and knocks out the receptors that would feel like heat of it burning through like skin and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then she starts having these thoughts about, I wonder if there's a cell phone tower nearby. And it's like, and she like pauses, and it's like, why that's a weird thought to have out in the middle of the outback. And then she starts thinking about, oh, where was the last cell phone tower? I need to get out there. And she realizes that she has become infected with this thing, because what the fungus wants to do is climb up to the highest possible place and explode and infect everyone around
Oh,
the
that's
area.
messed up. So the
And
perspectives that were being written, they've just merged into one.
they merge,
Mhm.
yeah, and it's like the
Okay.
fungus is like taking control of her brain, and
And I have to
yeah.
say, the way it shifts around the perspectives there of like the other characters seeing and what's going on, and like it's just absolutely chilling. It's crazy. It's insane.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
sounds crazy already. So this entity, whatever it is, crashed off a satellite, is what it's.
Yeah, it was like on a satellite in deep space or something like that, and then like it was kind of inert on the satellite. They sent it up there purposefully as a different kind of like normal kind of cordyceps fungus, and then something in space happened,
Yeah.
but when it came back down to Earth, it was this mega fungus kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay. So we got a bit of alien in there, a little bit of like something from deep space, and we've got this just pure horror of something like paralyzing you before you even have a chance to realize you're getting infected.
Yep,
Mhm.
and it's
Okay.
quick. It's super quick.
Yeah, and it's
Okay.
basically telling her brain like everything's fine, but you need to climb that tower.
And does
Mhm.
she end up climbing that tower? What do we?
She
She was smarter.
Yeah, she realizes like she starts going through checklists in her head, like this is not right, something is wrong, while it's like literally eating her brain. And
Which,
she
yeah, there's literally like a checklist in the book, like the points A, B, and C of what's happening to me.
yeah,
Mhm.
and she realizes she's infected and is not going to make it, and she takes her gun out and takes the non fungus way out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It's horrifying. Like
It's amazing.
I mean, I remember I remember sitting and reading that open and just like being horrified. I was like, "Oh my god, what the hell?"
It's like a crazy ride where you read that and you're like, what is this book going to be?
So when I'm like,
Yeah.
sign me up, I'm in. That's it.
I think I
Yeah.
read it in one sitting, if I
I think you
remember
did.
right.
I remember it because you read it before I did, even though I had the book earlier.
Mm-hmm. It was, you can just, I mean, it's not that long.
No.
You can, I mean, you can knock,
320 pages.
yeah, you can knock it out in a couple hours if you
Mhm.
really get going on it.
And you will. Like
okay.
if you like that first few chapters, I feel like you'll get sucked in and you'll just speed through it.
And does the whole book kind of run in that perspective switching thing? Do we constantly kind of hear it from the perspective of whatever this thing is? Is it kind of like the Thing where it keeps evolving?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Mhm.
We do get kind of shifting perspectives because it does start changing. It does, you have this version of it at the beginning of the book where it immediately infects somebody and all they want to do is climb up a tower and explode.
Mhm.
And we see that the after effects of that with all the people in the village kind of thing. But then as we get, the majority of the book is set in a cold storage facility in eastern Kansas, I think.
Mhm.
And yeah, it the fungus starts to do different things and take on different qualities in order to more effectively find and
Mhm.
infect more people.
I was gonna say the opening, like with those interludes and everything and all the scientific stuff, it really felt really Crichton. But then
Mhm.
with the really small town stuff, it felt, and this force that's like infecting people, it felt like Stephen King also. So yeah, and then we get to where it's been stored underground for 30 years. So
Yeah, and my favorite part of that is where they're explaining like how this could have gotten back out. And they're like, well, we put it into this underground storage, but because of, let's see it, the remote town was forgotten about because people forgot and moved on. The place where it was stored became a warehouse unit. People retired. It was just forgotten about, and so it was painted over, and then the temperature of the planet rose, and that's what kicks it off.
Okay, yeah, no, it sounds crazy. It sounds like it's going to be scary too, which obviously I'm
It's
in.
basically just a monster walled up waiting to come out.
Mm-hmm.
Is like the picture it paints in my head.
So obviously there are ties to Jurassic or there's whatever, but how do you think this is how does it relate to Jurassic Park? And with that as well, do you think that what David Koepp wrote here, do we think in any way that it's going to influence or has influenced Rebirth?
I think we talked about this on the last pod I was on, but the small cast of characters, just focusing on that, and it's not a huge cast, but you have a really great cast. Because we know, I mean, there's, like the synopsis says, there's the main guy and the two people in the warehouse, essentially. There's other people in the background, but once you get going, it focuses on those mains. So, and then like Corey mentioned, it's a night. I don't think the new Jurassic will happen overnight, but I'm thinking maybe it'll have that shorter timeline, since it kind of sounds from the synopsis that they're trying to get their stuff done really fast and get all the samples. So pacing, small cast of characters, I think we'll probably see.
What about the body horror? Do we think that's going to play?
I fucking hope so, but I don't think so.
I mean, I hope
there's
so.
some.
There it is. I mean, it can't be understated probably how graphic this book is. Like there are scenes that are like painted out where there's just people just like the virus or the fungus has like eaten all their insides, and then the way it infects other people is it just vomits it all up over people. just like the projectile vomit across a room, and just to infect more people with this virus, and basically like empties out and is now a hollow shell of a human being. So I mean, it gets gross.
And happens to animals too.
Oh yeah, the infected deer.
There's a deer that's like running around inside the cold storage, right?
All that
gets
just
infected.
Yep.
Yeah, it's real creepy. I'm like,
ugh.
All
that just graphic biology also just tied it back, like felt so Crichton to me, like how he describes death. And you're right, it was.
I think too that kind of similar to Crichton is all of this feels like it could actually happen. Like nothing was too bizarro. Like they talk about how the infected, grow and mutate and is taking over, and it's not like The Last of Us, where they don't become these big like mushroom people and it goes on that way. But
flickers and all that.
yeah, so like it still stays somewhat grounded in like science, which I feel like Crichton always is.
And I think if like going back to The Last of Us, I didn't think about this at the time because The Last of Us wasn't out. The TV show, at least, wasn't out when I read it for the first time. But if you go back and watch like the first scene of The Last of Us, where it's the talk show where they're talking about the future of what's the most potential harmful thing to the earth, and what's the actor from The Mummy? I forgot his name. He's in that
He was
scene.
one of the from the.
He's the host in that scene, isn't he?
Yeah. He's one of the scientists.
Oh yeah, I think you're right.
He's the one that like brings up that the fungi and mushrooms are potentially the most deadly thing that exists on our planet, and that we need to watch out for them. And then cue The Last of Us. But if you just watch that first scene and then read Cold Storage, it's like that's perfect. It literally leads right into that.
John Hannah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jonathan,
yeah, from The Mummy. Yeah, that scene was. I was a bit gutted that in Last of Us we didn't keep going back to that kind of era, that broadcast.
That
'cause that was
opening
terrible.
perspective sort of thing.
Yeah,
Mm.
I liked that kind of opening in Last of Us. But yeah, the whole concept, the video game of Last of Us, I remember playing it, and it's all about the way it infects, like spores from the dead bodies that have been infected. So there's zones where you don't go in, like corridors where
Mhm.
spores. Is a similar thing here, the way it infects? It would kind of be like, or I guess it develops. So
Yeah, there's not really like spore. I mean, I guess they are spores technically, but it's not like The Last of Us where there's like, a cloud of spores that you have to get around. It's more
yeah,
like direct contact. If somebody vomits on you, or if somebody literally that's been infected explodes on you, right? Then you get infected. It's not like sifting through the air. It's pretty direct human to human contact, at least in this book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so go on. Favorite moments, or most gruesome moments from this book that you can recall? Because the opening scene sounds pretty. At least the way that happens and how fast she kind of picks up on it. That's just thriller, horror.
I mean, if I'm picking a favorite moment, it's got to be the first couple scenes. Just that whole thing is crazy. But another aspect I like about this book is how, I think the characters are written really well.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of our older main character Roberto, he's kind of a young guy at the beginning, and then moving on, we kind of have a 30-year time jump, and he's older but still trying to make sure everything's safe. But he's still like really, really smart and kicking. And there's a scene where he's like racing towards the facility to try to like rescue everybody, and gets pulled over by a cop. And he's actually got like a mini bomb in the back of his car, and he's like, okay, how do I get out of this? And one of the things he realizes, he sees this cop, and he sees a tattoo on the cop that kind of like pokes out from underneath his sleeve, and it's like a militia type tattoo of like a doomsday prepper kind of militia. And he immediately switches in his mind to, oh brother, I'm just trying to protect the world, to try to get out of this big pulled over and getting a ticket or whatever. And he just switches that and does that instantly in his head, which was really cool. And then the cop just lets him go, and it's like, yeah, do your thing, brother. And then he gets onto the facility with a bomb in the back of his car.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, man, I gotta read this. This sounds good. I was just looking, actually, when you said about the movie. I just looked it up. The director, I think he did some work on Westworld and things like that, the TV show, but his only other movie was a movie called Alien Autopsy, 2006. Have you guys seen that movie? It's like a British.
I don't think
I've
so.
heard of it for sure.
It's ridiculous. It's a comedy.
It's a comedy.
It's a comedy all about the guys who fake. I think the story is they saw the real Alien Autopsy video, and then when they bought it off the guy, the film reel completely like destroyed because it was so old. So they recreated it, and it's a comedy about them recreating it and trying to convince the world. Funny, but what a random choice. But then he did work on Westworld, which is another Michael Crichton.
What did he do on Westworld?
Apparently, he directed some of the TV episodes.
Oh, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
Yeah, but hasn't. It's quite a new director for Cold Storage. But the cast: Liam Neeson, Joe Keery, Georgina Campbell. Interesting.
Yeah,
It is interesting.
I really like the casting. When I read it, not who I pictured in my head for these characters.
No.
There's one of the, I guess we haven't talked about this. This is kind of probably, to me, one of the weirder parts in the book. Well, I can't say that. It's a book about fungus that infects people.
It's a pretty out there book.
But one of the main characters' name is Tea Cake.
Yeah.
And that's his nickname. Yeah, I think his real name's like Travis or something like that, but he goes by Tea Cake.
It's like so
name, right?
It's like so weird that it's almost
like
more
not
realistic.
a nickname. It's like, I don't get it.
Because it's like,
it reminds
it's so
me of
weird
the
that I
names
believe it.
in Prison Break. They all had like really weird nicknames.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like nicknames in this book. There's a crew that like is trying to steal TVs and stuff from the storage facility, and obviously they're kind of fodder, and they all have these weird nicknames. And the main one's really funny because nobody will call him by his nickname, and he desperately just wants to be called by his nickname, and nobody calls him it, and so it's kind of funny. And that's how he gets kind of duped, because the fungus starts like infect somebody, and then they start calling him his nickname. He's like, "Oh, okay, thanks, finally." But yeah, Tea Cake will be played by Joe Keery, which is I love Joe Keery. I love Stranger Things, so I am not unhappy about the casting, because Liam Neeson obviously has a lengthy film history under his belt, and he's a good actor. And I think Joe Keery is too. Did y'all ever see the Joe Keery movie where he was the serial killer, like Uber driver?
No.
No, I don't think so.
It's a crazy.
I'm just seeing that.
It's
I
an
didn't
out
think-
there movie.
I didn't think that sentence was going to end with the words Uber driver. I thought it was going to stop at serial killer.
What was it called? What's it? Spree? Is it
Spree? Yeah, Spree.
Oh,
and
wow.
and it's like a
that's a pandemic movie, right?
yeah, it's a pandemic movie. It's like found footage, not found footage, but it's like he's filming the whole thing.
Oh my god,
it's nutty. It's kind of like
American Psycho for the digital age.
Yeah. And God, I wish I could remember the name of the movie.
Is it worth watching? Spree.
It's worth one watch. I don't think I would ever go back to it.
Okay. Okay.
But it's a fun. I think it's super short. I think it's like a 90-minute movie, maybe even less than that.
There was a bunch of those made during the first like stint of stay at home. A load of those sort of like Zoom movies, and some of them are brilliant. I watched one the other day, I think, called Monolith, and I think it was made. I don't know if I'm just assuming, but I think it was made during like lockdown, and it's just, but it's not found footage like filming on iPhone. It is just shot within a house, and she's a podcaster, so all the other characters she's just audio recording them. So it's kind of an interesting way to do it. It was all about this monolith she found, like black monolith, and then when she was a kid, I think someone sends her like video when she was a child, and she like is talking about this monolith that she's had, but she can't remember it. She just discovered it now, and then it's some of her friends. I don't know. It's really weird, bizarre. It's all alien and things like that. But speaking of alien, because this fungus, did it originate? Was it something the U.S. government developed, or did it originate from?
It was a normal fungus that got sent up to space just for like, I think,
experimentation.
Yeah. Just how it fared in space, and then it came into contact with something in space that changed it.
Okay.
And
So
then it crashed
definitely, does it ever kind of entertain that during the book, the concept of where it's from or what did that, or does it just kind of focus on what's happening?
Really, no. I don't think
It's very primal.
Okay.
I mean,
cool. Yeah.
Like spread, evolve.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I was gonna say I want to use the opening sort of the whole sequence as like my favorite thing about it, and use it to like convince people to read this book, including you, Jack, because like if you sit down and get through like the first 2 to 3 chapters, you will be hooked, and like it's just so chilling and horrifying. Like the way Koepp wrote it is just excellent, and like the horrifying reveals in that couple of chapter opening and the death is just horrifying, and I could see it in my head as if it was a movie. We were talking about how it's kind of written like a movie. It definitely feels that way, and like I don't know, the whole book then continues that sort of like cinematic experience, and it's really quick. And I hope the last thing I'll say, I guess, is the reason I want to talk about the opening is because Jurassics have cold openings, and I hope how this relates to Jurassic Rebirth is that David Koepp is going to give us a really like one of those chilling, really good Jurassic cold opens with Rebirth. I am really hoping for that. So
yeah, I hope so too. So is Roberto Diaz one of the guys? He went to Australia? Did he survive?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's kind of like our older main character.
He's the connector who knows what's going on.
That's what I was gonna say. Like the other thing about the opening is I really like how it sort of like details the process of like how this just became a forgotten thing in a really cool way. Just the way Koepp writes this sort of step by step of like, this happened and then this happened and this is why it was forgotten. Like you were talking about, Sam, like people retired, and it's just, it feels really realistic too, like in the real world. So
yeah, I think we kind of touched on this on maybe the last podcast I was on about David Koepp's writing, and we touched on it a little bit here, but he loves a good bottleneck, right? And so like the setting for this whole thing is a cold storage facility, or like your standard storage facility where like if you're moving you would put stuff, right? So there's a bunch of like empty hallways, a bunch of kind of like middle of the night, nobody's there kind of thing. And I think Koepp really likes to write that way, and I hope that he does that for Rebirth too, which from everything we're hearing, it kind of sounds like they're going to be bottlenecked on another island maybe. So hopefully that continues. I know that's nothing new for like the Jurassic franchise, but it does tend to be its best sort of storytelling is on an island. So,
and we've got our core trio sort of. I mean, I would say outside of ScarJo Mahershala and Jonathan Bailey, like everybody else is relatively expendable.
Yeah.
So we've got the core trio of characters too with Koepp's writing. So,
and you said cold storage takes place across pretty much a whole night.
Yeah, it's just one night.
Okay.
Basically,
once you get into like the present day, it's just one night.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park takes place over the course of 2 days, right?
I'd like to tell John what does he say? I'd like to thank John for a lovely
weekend.
Weekend.
Yeah, I think it's over the course of like maybe a day and a half, because they get there in the afternoon, they go on the tour, everything shuts down, and then they fly out literally the next morning afternoon.
Yeah.
So it's like over 24 to 36 hours.
And The Lost World, I mean, a couple weeks maybe, or I mean, I'd say the like.
Yeah, you got to factor in the time for them to get to San Diego for sure. So yeah.
Yeah, but still, it still feels relatively like, doesn't feel like a lot of time passed.
No, I mean it's a quick change.
Yeah.
I think Rebirth may try retain that. It might start in the day. The whole movie takes place overnight. I mean, if we're going inside the temples and stuff, if that's really what's happening, then I guess it doesn't matter if it's day or night. But I think timeline wise, does Godzilla, everything that Gareth has done, how long does Godzilla's over the course of a few days, right?
Yeah, Godzilla is longer because it tracks his trek from like Asia to Hawaii and then to the west coast of the US. So it's definitely over the course of at least a week, I think.
Yeah. What about the creator?
I haven't seen that one.
Caleb, you're a fan.
It's some significant time, I think, in the creator.
Yeah, so it really depends what they've come up with for this. But I just feel like they will. I think they'll try to go back to that formula of being kind of overnight, the Jurassic, and the next day. Jurassic World was the same, right? That was a day.
That was a day.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Nighttime, and then by afternoon they're back in Costa Rica.
Same. Yeah.
Well, and even Michael Crichton's latest book, Eruption, that took place over a couple of days. So still kind of similar formula there.
Isn't that crazy? Saying Michael Crichton's latest book,
right?
He passed away in 2008. It's crazy. You obviously, I think Sam, you said you blasted through Eruption, right?
Oh yeah, it was a real quick read.
Nice pun.
Good, recommended.
I enjoyed it. It's more of a action adventure-y kind of thing than Cold Storage is. So if you want more of just that kind of science, kind of like end of the world disaster, like any of those earthquake kind of movies, it's more like that versus this kind of horror thing, which I read a lot faster, I think, but it's entertaining.
Almost unstoppable biological horror.
It has, Eruption has
unstoppable geological horror.
Yeah.
It also has something else that's hidden on the island.
Spooky.
Eruption
Yeah.
starts out with, or like a lot of, do all the chapters have like a little countdown, like a 48-hour or
Most
something?
of them, yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Is
cool.
it a second volcano?
Inside the,
Yeah.
Think
Inside the other volcano?
Yeah.
it just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
another government fuck up.
Classic.
There you go.
Classic.
So similar vibes to cold storage in that aspect, but yeah, definitely not as horror-y. I mean, people fall into lava, but they're not exploding or anything. They just
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
bodies on a wave of lava.
Eruption has also, like, it's also going to be adapted into a series or a film soon, right?
Yeah, movie. Yeah.
Well, they said that about Micro too. Where's Micro?
This
know.
though, the rights, like, it was
they sold immediately.
Yeah, it was a hot bidding war.
Yeah, isn't it Amblin or is it DreamWorks or one of them has the rights?
I think it was Amblin.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah, with Spielberg set to produce or exec produce, but
I think they're really pushing on it though, versus Micro that didn't get as hard of a backing.
Yeah.
Micro's
a great novel though. I
love Micro. I still think
I want an adaptation.
We brought it up earlier, but I want to see the Prey movie. Like, that's one of my favorite Crichton books, and I think, I mean, you'd have to do some pretty extensive CGI for the actual like nanobots in the.
It's got to be convincing because
it's
so easy to get wrong.
Yeah, it would be really easy to get wrong, but hopefully, this day and age, we should be able to do it. Hopefully, and I love that book. That's one of the one Crichton books that I like always go back to and have no problem picking it back up and just reading it again because I think it's so well written.
It's a really good book. Does that kind of? But I asked at the beginning, but does it kind of? It's not. It doesn't flow in the same way to Cold Storage. You wouldn't say, even though because my memory of Prey, it's like nano robots that form. They almost move like when you see like a bee colony.
Right. Yeah, like a swarm.
Swarm.
Yeah, they call them swarms in Prey. It's just different because I think if I remember right, in Prey, the way that people die is they just kind of like suffocate to death because there's so many like of the nanobots like in their throat and they can't breathe and everything. And it's not as like graphic and gory as like of the deaths that are in Cold Storage, whereas in Prey they're just like they just asphyxiated because there's all these robots in the air. The air is so thick. And there's a lot more like in Prey, there's a lot more like corporate greed aspects of it. Like, well, they made all these bots and then they kind of got loose and they went on a rampage. Whereas in Cold Storage, it's just this freak accident that this fungus came back down and is just insanely lethal to everyone. Nobody made it. It wasn't really a mess up. It just happened and people have got to deal with it.
It's nature finding a way.
There it is.
I'm curious if that it almost prompted David Koepp to take a look at Jurassic again. You know what I mean? He wrote
probably, yeah.
And it was kind of like the biological aspect and the infection and whatever it was, and maybe he wrote it. So I mean, you're saying it's gruesome, it's highly detailed and brutal at times.
Yep.
Do we think we know that Jurassic Rebirth? I don't think has been rated yet, obviously, but we're assuming it's going to be a PG-13, right? PG, the same as the others. But do we think that they're going to push the boundary a little bit? Do you think David Koepp would have written more gruesome, deaths in this movie?
I hope so. I mean, the
Fingers crossed.
the first two are like probably have the most gruesome deaths, I would say.
Yeah, even like Nedry, if you don't see it, but you just
know
how bad that's going to be, and you hear it.
Yeah,
like see a splatter of blood or whatever.
Yeah. I still think the worst death in all of the franchise. Say what you want about Zara and that whole ordeal. I still think the worst one is Dieter with the compies. Like that one, I just go like that. Still like gives me like cringe when I watch that scene. Yeah. And that's David Koepp, and I hope we get more of that.
And again, we don't see it the whole thing. We see it
Nope.
rip his lip. I love that he pulls it and rips.
That's
the
what
lip.
I was. Yeah, when it grabs a hold of his lip.
Yeah, and apparently that was Peter Stormare's choice. He said, "I wanted to do that, like put one of them around my neck, around my lip. I want to pull it off." Yeah, the whole scene is brutal, but then the fact that you don't see it, the final moments, and it just shows you the water turn to red. Water finds a way. There's definitely
Water finds a way.
Blood water in this, right?
We've gotten it in every podcast, but since it emerged.
Yeah, that lady does not know what she's done.
Yeah. I hope she listens to the podcast.
Yeah. I was going to ask you guys, because I feel like it's appropriate on a cold storage podcast if we wanted to talk about the DX disease from the Lost World novel and how that might relate to Rebirth, because we're apparently looking for samples to provide life-saving benefits to humanity. And we also have David Koepp, who has pulled from the Lost World before, and he's just written a novel a few years ago about a deadly contagion. So do you think, I mean, maybe it's not DX specifically, but like, do you think with David Koepp and everything he's written lately and with everything going on in the world, do you think that's where we're headed, something like that? Or
so first off, we never got confirmation in Dominion what the original thing was that was cut. Do you remember there was that report that said they cut something due to the pandemic? They had to rewrite some.
Yeah, they changed part of the story.
But we don't know what that was, right?
They said around the time in the trades, they had some sort of phrasing where it was like removed because of sensitivity to world events or something. But there was also, they changed, we were talking about this on the last podcast, how they changed some of the Russia elements because of geopolitical stuff in the world too. So
that's true.
Yeah.
So it could have been that, just that kind of thing. Okay. Well, I'm just wondering, because I remember there was a rumor that Dominion was going to do the DX thing, something that fans have wanted for a long time, something that Michael Crichton had concepted. It's in the Lost World, and it was kind of already on the island when they went there. And at the end of the novel, unless I'm wrong, Malcolm, when they're leaving, Malcolm like coughs or sneezes and there's blood. Is that right? That's what happens at the end of the Lost World, and they kind of think, hang on, maybe we are now.
I forgot about that. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
I hope I'm not wrong. Shit. It's been so long since I've read that novel.
It's like, it's like, am I thinking about that, or am I thinking about the end of the newer first Planet of the Apes movie? Because that definitely happens in that.
It happens in a lot of things. So.
Yeah.
Also, I've probably imagined that in my brain with something Jurassic too. So,
yeah.
We think about Jurassic a lot, so it's possible.
It's all about the prions.
It
prions.
Prions.
Is it prions?
It's I think it's prions.
But
prions.
But like, it just feels like with David Koepp, it just feels like we might be doing something medical, biological, like that.
Yeah, I think it's possible.
So DX is a prion disease, which is similar. We've seen it in the real world with mad cow. I don't know if you guys remember mad cow when that was happening, which was basically all the meat it started in the UK, I think. All the meat that was being processed, they were doing some of it on their really grubby floors of the factories, and all this old blood and new blood was mixing, and it basically ended up infecting. I'm not going to pretend like I know the science behind it, but it infected the meat, and then when humans kept eating the meat, as far as I'm aware, it managed to infect them, but it changed to this thing called CJ. Is it mad cows?
Which is sort of how it happens in the Lost World novel, correct? They're like,
it's definitely like a protein. Yeah,
they're feeding them types of meat, and they get mixed or something.
Yeah, I think it was compies were being used to clean up, like basically as scavengers to clean up the other
like a compost.
And it all kind of mixed, and then carnivores would eat the herbivores, and I think it came from infected sheep. Ground up sheep that they were using or something. And it infects, and it's a horrific. I mean, it's not. Michael Crichton doesn't expand on it past that point. It's you never see or read about how it affects humans, like what it would actually do. But if we follow what mad cow did, it basically broke down your entire system of your body. It attacks all the. Am I wrong? It attacks the proteins.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then you basically lose your function. You lose motor function. You lose brain function. And the videos of, if you watch documentary on Mad Cow, for example, it's horrific. You just watch people basically descend and lose less and less function of their own body and lose their mind, basically, and then die. And it was like being
Cold storage. Cold
Yeah,
yeah.
really. It's Mad Cow in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a slower process for that. So I could imagine if Rebirth does tackle the DX virus, or DX, I keep saying virus, not a virus, it is disease X. But if it tackles DX, then I guess that life-saving, or is it life-saving in the
Yes.
in the plot summary?
Yeah.
Then I guess for a while there's been something going on. So it could have been, they could, I mean, whatever this ends up being, it could have been something that started during Wu's second reign with Masrani. You know, when they were, and then the Indominus Rex, and they were crossing too many animals together. I don't know. Maybe that's started something. All the workers at Jurassic World got infected, and then they left Jurassic World after the disaster and spread it out into the world. And 10 years later, they're like, "Hang on, something's happening."
Yeah, maybe it took a long time to develop or something.
Yeah. Cold storage. Then did it for the whole time? Are they wearing these?
No, just for the first couple chapters, and then they're in a store, like it's turned into a commercial storage facility where this fungus is, and so it's just regular people in there. They don't even have any clue that it's there.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
Which is why too, like when you see the people and animals like exploding or vomiting or whatever, you're like, oh god, there's no, like, you basically just have to run. But where are you running to? You're in a storage facility underground.
The Koeppt suspense and terror, I feel, are just going to translate
really
I hope
well. So. I really, really hope so.
Even if they're not not all the way up to the level of cold storage, I just feel like Koeppt's in this. He's in a good mindset over the last few years. So.
There's a novel that I read probably kind of around the same time. I was going to Chicago for the first time and wanted just a book that was set in Chicago, and I just happened to stumble across this really like sci-fi horror novel that is set in Chicago that reminded me a lot of Cold Storage. It's called Sleep Tight by Jeff Jacobson, and if y'all are interested in that, that's a good one. It's not a fungus this time it's bed bugs, and if you get bit by a bed bug, you basically turn into this like murderous, rampaging like psycho. And it's crazy. It's also really, really out there, and it's not as bottlenecked because it's across the whole city of Chicago. But it's a fun read, and definitely equally, if not more, graphic and horrifying to read about.
Wasn't there a real bed bug pandemic recently that people thought was going to turn into something coming out of France or something? Did you hear about that?
I didn't hear about that.
There was a festival, I think it was either in France or in the UK, and there was like a huge bed bug infestation, and then people were on public transport, like trains and buses, and on the benches where you could see the bugs.
Nope.
Absolutely not.
They were going to fly to America with these bed bugs and stuff. Oh, that could have been terrifying.
There's so many good sci-fi things happening in the world and in books.
Let's keep it in the books, please.
Yeah, well, I mean, would you be happy, kind of going back to the DX thing and Rebirth, would you be happy if in Rebirth it is that different, that the world is in this state of people are dying because they've been infected by something, and it's like the whole world has shifted its view to now we need to find a cure? Do we think there's going to be that would you be happy if there's that much emphasis on this rescue of a dinosaur island, or are we hoping that the kind of major threat is still dinosaurs? You know what I mean?
I think you can have both. I think you can operate in a world where you have this DX like threat, while still having a movie that centers around a plot where dinosaurs are the main threat just to the characters of the movie. Because it's kind of like this cure that they're seeking, right, is like the MacGuffin of the movie. And they're going to face challenges to get it, just like any Jurassic or Indiana Jones movie, really. And in this particular instance, we just have dinosaurs and temples, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, dinosaurs are what if the threat is this big thing to humanity, dinosaurs are probably a big part of what's standing between us and like finding the cure, like carnivorous or otherwise. Like, that still sort of is the main focus of the threat. But like, we're 5 years after Dominion. It would be interesting. I guess I like to answer your question. I would be happy. I think it would be cool if, in the vein of the Lost World novel or DX or whatever, like the dinosaurs had something to do with what's plaguing humanity. Like they've developed a disease, or they've done they're releasing some compound from their bodies now because they're in a new environment and it affects humans or something. And then like that, the dinosaurs are why and then we have to go get something from dinosaurs to like make the cure or whatever. Like that would be interesting.
Which makes sense. You introduce something to a new environment, you're gonna have blowback.
Yeah.
And it's not just the threat of having to face these dinosaurs. It's we can't even get too close to them, because if they are, if it's like through a bite, maybe. I think that's how it happens in. Well, that's how it's hinted at in the novels. If the dinosaur bites and then it infects, that's why. Isn't what happens to Dieter? Isn't it assumed that the Compy bites are venomous, or they're slowing him down his nervous system, and then that's why he kind of can't get away at that point. He's been bitten too much, and
that's definitely in the
paralysis.
Novels. Yeah, because that's how Hammond bites it in the book. Is like he slowly just like he gets a Compy bite and slowly like falls asleep, and and that's the end of Hammond.
Then it's buffet.
Yeah. I never thought about that with Dieter. It makes a lot of sense.
I think because he's fit, agile. I mean, I know they've been pumping away on that island hiking, but
even just bleeding from all those tiny wounds also, like after a while.
It just seems like he scrambles to even get over the log at that point. Then you're like, hang on, this guy can just get up, but I've never been attacked by compies. So
when he gets over that log, I swear like 100 compies jump on him.
They keep coming as well. They just keep going. I love that. I'd love to find that location. I swear I saw a thread once where somebody found that original location because it's in California, that through like they found that original riverbed, and obviously it looks very different now, but I'd love to go back and see what remains, see if we can kind of make the same shots. That whole canyon thing he was in was terrifying. Like imagine just being on Sauna, stranded in that, knowing things are around.
Yep.
Man, I love Lost World. Did you watch it the other night, Caleb?
I ended up not watching it, but I'm planning on it soon. I have, every once in a while you get the itch, you just have to watch it.
You get the urge.
Yeah. You got to go back to it, get your fix.
That's it. Get the Jurassic fix. I have the urge now to read Cold Storage.
We did it.
Jurassic Park Book Club.
Sold. Yeah.
Hey, we've been talking about having this podcast for a while, and here we are.
Yeah.
So
we did it.
Yeah.
I hope there is influence from it. The way you're describing it, it's kind of, as much as I know Jurassic can't go horror, and I'm like you mentioned at the start, how Corey, how this is really graphic, and you don't think it could be translated well into. It's too graphic at some stages for a film, right?
Right.
And I said no, absolutely not. Like it could be more graphic. Like
it's not whether or not they could do it. They could. You're just not going to keep it in the realm of PG-13.
Yeah, it's going to be rated R.
Yeah. Cold Storage is the movie is going to be rated R, right? Do we it should.
I have no idea.
I feel like
it doesn't have
a rating.
I mean, no. I feel like with Liam Neeson though, I feel like there's a chance.
Could be. I don't think we've mentioned it on the podcast yet. The movie doesn't have a release date yet. It's already been filmed. It filmed in Italy this year. It's wrapped. It was the production company was Studio Canal, but there's been like I've tried to keep up with it over the news. There's been like no news about it, so I have no idea when it's going to come out. Presumably, it's supposed to be sometime next year.
2025 is what it says here, but yeah, it's shot. What was it? 2023.
It was either this year or last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, on IMDb it says June 12th, 2025 from Mexico release date. Don't know
They
how
might
accurate
not
that
wanna-
is, but can you imagine
June
if we get
12th?
cold storage and Jurassic this next summer?
Hell yeah.
I based on what you're telling me, I would hope that it's still going to be it's like going to be R-rated.
I hope so. It
Yeah.
needs to be.
Well, my point was I would take after how I feel the last few movies have been a little more toned back in that sense. I would take a full-blown horror Jurassic, but I'm aware they can't do that. I just hope that some of what you're describing here and the way it's described, David Koepp has definitely written and put forward to Rebirth. Whether they do it or not, I hope that screenplay is full of graphic, body horror deaths and stuff like even just Hoskins' death in Jurassic World when he gets chomped and you see the blood splat. I wanted just more of that, you know?
Bucky loves blood splatter.
He's a horror fan.
Yeah, I just wanted more of that. I definitely hope that there is more in Rebirth.
Well, I mean, and even in the original Jurassic, you have the arm coming down on Ellie. Like that's pretty gross, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like gory per se, but like it's,
I mean, you
it's
see
still
the
a
other
severed arm.
You
It's
see
just
the other
kinda
end of his
horrific
arm
in the
all
way it
bloody,
plays.
like
Yeah, but I
It's
mean,
a
it's not like
stump.
squirting at you like that kind of level. But like,
dripping loads of blood and
yeah, it's still a severed limb from a
I
human
mean,
being, so it's
Yeah.
pretty gross.
Eddie Carr getting ripped in half.
That's
in the
pretty
Lost
bad.
World.
Really,
That's
that was
pretty
bad.
freaking.
yeah.
David Koepp.
David Koepp.
See, and they could do something like that where it's like farther away from the camera, so we're not seeing
almost
like all those
silhouetted.
details.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what I was going to say. In that sequence, you don't really see anything. You just see the parts of his body come apart. And it's because it's dark, it's super nighttime. And I think by that point, they're both in silhouette again, the T-Rexes, or like because of the lights of the Jeep or whatever. I
Just
don't know.
about, yeah.
Yeah.
Your imagination fills it all in.
Yeah. And that's the way they get away with it. So hopefully there is a lot of nighttime. And with that, a lot of nighttime deaths in Rebirth. Just done right. Like the way that in The Lost World as well, where they are in the long grass, the way all those
Yeah.
mercs
I feel like
get
that's
taken
more
out.
terrifying than a lot of the gory scenes in horror movies. Like,
Do we think David Koepp wrote some long grass? He was like, "Oh yeah, I wrote a long grass scene once. Let's
Oh,
do that
yeah.
again."
give the people what they want?
Yeah. I hope so.
Because that
time.
ScarJo and Jonathan Bailey photo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and that, I mean, it could have been anywhere, but that really does look like the location that Real News found, which was the field that they
Thailand.
grew. So it's a big field. So
Yep.
I guess they're sneaking through, they're running through it. Maybe they have to run to beat the Raptors, like when Malcolm and everybody else has to run through it after they know the Raptors have just killed everyone. Just that dead sprint. Yeah, terrifying. So speaking of David Koepp though, and his other work, he has that other novel, but he's written a bunch of screenplays too. Are you familiar with any of his other work? He's also directed a movie, a couple of movies, I think. He's directed a bunch of movies, actually. Secret Window, I saw. Have you seen that?
It's a good one.
Oh yeah. Spider-Man.
Yeah. The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, yeah.
Yeah, Sam Raimi.
He directed Ghost Town as well, which was that Ricky Gervais movie. That was a weird movie.
I've never seen that movie.
He wrote Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
He did.
Hey.
Yeah. He wrote Panic Room also, right?
Yep. I actually watched Panic Room like a month ago.
It's a really good movie.
I think I talked about this in the last podcast, but another bottleneck, like just crazy. He loves writing that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty evident. Panic Room is such a great movie as well.
He wrote a movie a couple of years ago called Kimmy. That's really good.
Oh, that was a Netflix one, right?
Has Zoe Kravitz in it. Yeah, I think Netflix or something like that, streaming for sure. I think Amazon Prime or something. I don't know. But it's like a Hitchcock. She has a phobia where she's afraid to go outside, and
I remember this movie.
she works for a call center, and she hears someone being killed over the emergency line, and then the killer like also stalks her through audio, and she can't go outside, and it's really suspenseful.
I remember that.
So he wrote the original Mission Impossible script, which is
people
War of the Worlds.
slander David Koepp's name, and,
and
I will not have it. He's great.
Also, War of the Worlds, which arguably is one of Spielberg's top, for me anyway, one of his top movies.
It's a great movie.
The panic, the sheer fear that's throughout that film. Kaminsky as well, lighting it, is just like this oversaturated, highlights blown out. It's so horrific, the whole movie. But there's a lot of gore and really brutal. See, even just that sequence where I think the little Dakota Fanning, she goes off down to the river, and then all those bodies
just float by.
The sheer terror of it, like, you know, it's just dead bodies, but oh man, I think Koepp, I think they knew what they would do. Hopefully they knew what they were doing, bringing Koepp back. I hope they brought him back for the same reasons we're thinking.
And you know what's funny about him is like there is a humor in a lot of his books too. Like Cold Storage has humor because T-Cake like can't keep his mouth shut and he just talks constantly and makes dumb jokes, which I resonate with personally. But you know, Koepp also has a sense of humor because I'm sure everybody listening probably already knows this, but he was in The Lost World as the unlucky bastard.
Yeah. Speaking of his other work, you know.
Yeah, credited as unlucky bastard who gets chomped by the T-Rex in San Diego in The Lost World. So if you don't have a mental picture of what he looks like, it's that guy.
And I'm sure you guys have been to that location too. Caleb took me to that location when
in Burbank.
Burbank, we went to the road.
It's a Gap now.
To the Gap, yeah. It's great to be there in the presence of where legends once stood. I was saying to Caleb, there should be a plaque. There should be a giant The Lost World plaque in the ground somewhere.
Just like a footstep. Make a T-Rex footstep.
That'd be awesome.
We scattered some. Yeah. We scattered some Chilean sea bass on the ground in his memory.
Yeah. It's cool. It's a great place. And then we went to Ellie's house.
So we thought.
You tried.
Oh yeah, you almost visited Ellie's house.
You went to the house across the street. That was it was also a different movie house.
2 Christmases.
4 Christmases.
4 Christmases.
I looked at when you said it, I was like, "Did you go to the 4 Christmases house?"
So close.
Yeah. Unintentionally, I took like 5 photos of it on my film camera, just wasted on this 4.
Listen,
house, brilliant.
I've seen Jurassic Park 3. I've never seen 4 Christmases, so
Great movie. Movie.
Good cast as well. Nick Van Owen.
That's it. That's the one.
Van Owen.
Yeah. But I think what's worse about that is we parked outside what we believe was Ellie's house. Because we parked there very quickly. Right. Let's go off quickly so we don't annoy them. Jeez,
oh boy.
We had our blinders on, honestly.
But yeah, David Koepp. I wonder if he'll get a cameo in Rebirth. I mean,
that would be amazing.
He died in universe.
Yeah.
I mean,
unlucky bastard lives.
Yeah, maybe he did.
Unlucky bastard Junior.
The original Mission Impossible, he wrote that. It's
a great movie.
It really is a great movie. It's very contained, quite tight, the way it plays out. Arguably one of the best.
The Mission Impossible franchise isn't quite as like contained and like, you know, small spaces suspenseful as it was in that first movie, but like he sort of kicked off the franchise to have that tone, honestly, because like those first 4 or 5 Mission Impossibles definitely are like contained, compressed, suspenseful, and then like he kicked off the Jurassic franchise too. So,
and that first one is mimicked so much, like in everything. I always had a mimic of that Tom Cruise when he's like hanging down in the room.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm. Go on, Caleb.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, to think up those sequences in Mission Impossible is pretty amazing. David Koepp.
David Koepp.
David Koepp.
A lot of people like this is for another podcast, the Mission Impossible podcast, but
We're a
a lo-
movie podcast.
a lot of like OG Mission Impossible TV series fans like hate that movie because it ties to the TV series and like makes the character from the old TV series a double agent and he's evil. And so like a lot of like Mission Impossible fans like trash that movie because they don't like that storyline. But
It's
anyway,
John Voight, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway,
So another horror series, just because it is so fresh in my mind, right? Alien.
mhm.
How familiar are you guys? Seen every Alien movie? Big fan.
Many times.
Wow.
Sam, no.
I haven't seen them all. No.
Okay.
I know I've seen Alien versus Predator. I remember though.
Yeah, that one. I will defend that movie. I love that
I
movie.
love it.
Yeah, I watched it for the first time. What, a week ago, Caleb? 2 weeks ago? Just so much fun. And it's like a good B movie, right? It's a great.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Coming
fantastic.
off of-
It's a good
And
time.
good B movies are what sustain us in the
Yeah.
times between.
They keep us going. Deep Blue
Yeah.
Sea.
Yeah,
Deep
exactly.
Blue Sea.
Tremors.
Oh, Tremors.
I feel like the horror of Alien 1, the way it's you barely see anything, the way it's hidden, and then the deaths, the way they kind of play out. I wonder if in this temple or wherever we end up spending Jurassic World Rebirth, we'll have a similar kind of vibe as that, where it's less seen. We know that there's apparently an animatronic on set, but
Yeah.
we don't know to the extent of that, and we don't know really. That leaked dinosaur list was just a leaked dinosaur list. We don't know if they're going more or less. But I hope that whatever happens, it's really drawn out, like it's a suspenseful kill. It's not just brutal kind of killing and taking off. I hope we see hunting behavior in the temple or something like that. I think Alien does that really well. It's a long movie and it kind of slowly, methodically takes over, and the way it's hiding and stuff, I hope it plays with that.
Since there are no animatronics, I feel like working with things that aren't seen will be helpful to that. So
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully
Reminds
it translates, and hopefully it flows the same. That'll be good.
Reminds me of somewhat of like Congo too, because we don't see
Oh yeah.
the monkeys for a long time.
Crichton all over the place.
Yep.
That book, like, and movie scared me to death as a kid.
The book is violent.
Yeah.
I watched that movie so much when I was a kid.
It's a great movie. It's talk about good B movies.
I was raised on Crichton.
Isn't that Frank Marshall movie?
It is. Yeah, it's a Frank Marshall directed.
Hell yeah, Frank.
Tim Curry.
That and
Would
Arachnophobia.
Would you guys take Frank Marshall directing a Jurassic? Everyone, for those listening, everyone is tilting their heads.
I had to think about that. I think I would actually. I kind of want Frank to direct something. It's been so long since he has, and I actually I like Arachnophobia.
I love Arachnophobia.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it's like
yeah.
Arachnophobia,
All right.
then give it to me.
Yeah,
he can
exactly.
have that.
And that was so long ago. That was 1990, I think.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it was 90.
Congo was 95, and then he kind of didn't direct. He did 8 Below in 2006, which was not really a horror.
Oh, no, God, no. That was what's his name?
Cuba
Paul
Gooding
Walker?
Jr.
Paul Walker. There, I was gonna say. I keep saying Aaron Paul in my head. I was like, I know it's Paul something.
And then he did. No, that was it. Oh, he did Alive in 93, which was the one about the plane crash cannibals.
Beach Boys? I didn't see that.
Oh yeah, he did the Beach Boys dog. Yeah, that was. Good.
Oh yeah.
I kind of hope. I've been wondering a while if Frank would direct again. I hope he would. Would I take a Frank Marshall Jurassic Park? Yeah, why not? If he goes back to those kind of, like, if he rewatches Congo and Arachnophobia and he's like, okay,
Yeah.
I need to do Jurassic like this, then yeah, I'll take that. That'd be fun.
If he can transport us back to 90s Amblin.
I wonder if this whole time he's been while he's been producing Jurassic World and being a part of that creative process, if he's been taking his own notes, been like, right, what would I do? What would I
Been
do?
learning on the job.
Yeah. He's like, right, this is what I'm gonna do. Stealing ideas. And
There you go.
I mean, he clearly has a passion for Jurassic too, and I think that's
Mhm.
super important too. At the end of the day, no matter who directs or writes. So
Yeah, for sure. Him and Pat Crowley seem pretty invested. The turnaround time on Rebirth.
He's now been on. I mean, Frank Marshall will have now been on more Jurassics than his wife. Correct?
Yes. Yeah. Although
Okay.
there's so much. I feel like I'm missing something because Frank Marshall never produced the original 3. He's not listed as producer, but then he apparently did work on them.
I mean, I am not surprised. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
Kathleen Kennedy.
I feel like I can't recall him in any of like the making ofs or any of that in Jurassic, Lost World, or JP3. It's always Kathleen Kennedy, Spielberg. You know what I mean? Never see Frank Marshall, but I wonder if he was
I think
there.
he let his wife take the spotlight on those first 3 because she really, as a producer, as a filmmaker, like she exploded in the 90s with Jurassic and everything. So
Yeah, she exec produced Lost World as well.
exactly, yeah. Like
Fully-
after the first one,
fully
she
in.
came back and was like, "I'm going in on this one."
Yeah, she made the right choice. Hell yeah, Lost World's a 10.
Yep.
Okay, well, I think you sold the book to me before we even started this podcast. If I'm being honest. I've been wanting to read the book for a while, so I'm excited. My last question though is: do you think I should wait for the movie and watch the movie first and then read the book? Because that usually doesn't happen. Usually, if there's a really good novel and it's getting made into a book, I'll have read the novel already.
read the book.
Yeah, my response is, why wait that long? just
Yeah.
don't
An unknown date.
don't.
It was like I was saying, when you sit down and read it, like you're not gonna want to stop. Like,
Yeah.
So.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm in. All right. Well, any final thoughts on David Koepp, on Michael Crichton, on Jurassic World Rebirth, or on the Alien franchise?
This has been Jurassic Park Book Club. Thank you for listening. No, I was gonna tell you. I wanted to bring this up to y'all because there's a lot of good like science fiction novels out there nowadays, like Cold Storage. Read Cold Storage, but also I was at Barnes and Noble the other day and I passed this book called The Tusks of Extinction.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of that, Sam?
Mm-hmm. I had an arc of it.
The premise is wild. Moscow has resurrected the mammoth, but someone must teach them how to be mammoths or they are doomed to die out again. Dr. Damira Kismatalina, an expert in elephant behavior, was brutally murdered trying to defend the world's last elephants from the brutal ivory trade. Now her digitized consciousness has been downloaded into the mind of a resurrected mammoth. As the herd's new matriarch, can Damira help fend off poachers long enough for the species to take hold? Or will her own ghosts and Moscow's real reason for bringing the mammoth back doom them to a new extinction?
Yeah, like, it's as wild as it sounds.
That sounds pretty wild.
That took so many turns that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, it kept going.
Cool mammoth.
Like I got to digitized consciousness, and I was like, "Whoa, okay."
Yeah.
Yep.
But anyway, read Cold Storage because it's one of the best sci-fi things out there right now. So, yeah.
There's also on the mammoth thing. There's Extinction. I think it's Douglas Preston.
Oh, I think I tried to read that. Or
really?
I downloaded it and I never opened it up. Because that I do remember Douglas Preston because he wrote The Relic too. Which is also another really good book and movie. But yeah, there's that one's on my list to read for sure.
Always a ever-growing list of things to read.
Always. Yeah.
But I'll get through it. Man. Oh, this was one thing I was going to say to you before, and I totally forgot when we were going through it. Have you read the Annihilation trilogy of books?
I read the first one only.
I haven't
First
read
I read
any
it.
of them.
I read it while I was in Hawaii, which let me
Ooh,
tell you
okay.
was fucking trippy as hell.
Okay, well they're great. They're all three of them are really good. But two things: one, it's kind of it infects, if I remember correctly, it infects and takes over and turns into a bit of a body horror. The other thing is the if I remember correctly, the first book is first person. The second book is third person or something, or it crosses between the two. But I say the second book. The third book is all three. It's set first, second, and third person, and it manages to. I've never read something from the second person before. It's a very, but it blends the three, and you kind of the whole book is jumping in time. It's a trip to read, but it kind of reminded me how you were saying about how the infection, you kind of get the POV, almost like the POV, the thoughts of the infected being, and then it blends with the character and their thoughts.
How does a second person view read?
Yeah, I it was been so long since I've read it, but
is it like you step into the jungle and
yeah, it's like descripting what the character's doing.
That's nutty.
Yeah,
I think it's what are the three books? Annihilation, Authority, and Acceptance. I think is the three books.
Okay.
And it's
The movie is wildly different from the book. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's
both
Because
are
I thought the
good, though, I
movie,
think.
I thought the movie was great and terrifying, but I know nothing about the book.
I didn't like the movie, but
I didn't either.
Both are terrifying.
Yeah.
I love Alex Garland to death. I
Yeah.
love so much that he's done, but Annihilation just wasn't for me. I don't know. It just wasn't for me. Ex Machina and the one thing that I don't think a lot of people have watched that I always tell them go to first for my example of Alex Garland is Devs, the TV show.
Devs is excellent.
It's so
Yeah,
good. It's so good.
I always go back to 28 Days Later because he wrote that, and I'm like, okay, that's
too.
brutal.
Yeah, that's good too.
The movie Annihilation, I find it tough because when you read the books, none of it is describing what you're seeing visually. It's all describing it the way it feels. So like this, it doesn't say like it looked like this. It's like it felt like this, and it made me feel like this. That's the best way I can kind of. So you never get you have to fill in the blanks of what they're actually looking at, where they are, and things like that. So the movie visually was not what I read, if that makes sense. The whole thing, I was like, no, that's not that's not it at all. But to others, it might be very similar. But I think I need to revisit the movie because it is Alex Garland, and it was good. I just didn't. I don't think it was really for me. But I would recommend reading those three books because the way it kind of slowly and like takes over, and then the perspective shifting is something I had to keep going back and rereading it. Okay, we've swapped again. Okay, now we're in the third. Okay, right. Wait, where am I? Which story? Which character now? But it's totally worth it for the payoff. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, on that note, then, thank you for listening to the InGeneral Podcast. Corey, Caleb, Samantha, thank you for joining. Thank you for selling me on Cold Storage.
My pleasure.
Yeah. This has been the Jurassic World Book Club.
Yeah, I'll let you know when I have read it. We'll do a follow up.
Yeah,
perfect.
It's updated. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, thank you guys, and thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.